Welcome to our Animal Justice Academy Lunchtime Live. The topic today is empathy overload and compassion fatigue in animal advocacy. I just want to welcome all you sweet beings for being with us live. I want to welcome those of you who are joining the replay. I just really happy to have your precious time be brought to this topic. I'm Kimberly Carroll, and I am the Director of Animal Justice Academy. But as many of you know, I am also a coach for changemakers. I've worked as a coach now for 15 years. I've been an activist for over 20. I've worked with a lot of animal advocates, including nonprofit leaders, grassroots activists, and undercover investigators. I work with folks to strategize around their important work. And to do that vital inner and resiliency work that will make you unstoppable. So today we're talking about the emotional toll of being an animal advocate. Um, and what we can really do to mitigate it. There's really no way around it. This is a painful sort of place to be. And so we need to, first of all, figure out ways to maybe cut down on the constant barrage, but also be able to figure out how to be informed. I always call it the catch-22 for animal advocates. You get into animal activism because you have such a big heart for animals, and you are so sensitive to their suffering. And then what happens? You basically enter activism and you end up with a front row seat around the clock to the worst animal suffering imaginable. And it tears that big heart of yours apart. I don't think you would be human if it wasn't weighing on you somewhat. Compassion fatigue, folks, though, is a huge problem in the animal advocacy movement. It causes the work of activists to be ineffective. There's many ways that empathy overload and compassion fatigue just really deplete your capacity to be a good activist. And it causes a lot of people to drop out. They just can't handle the heaviness of it, or they can't handle being an emotional wreck all the time. And this breaks my heart because obviously we need as many people as we can get in this huge gargantuan movement with so few people working for the animals. So in this next hour, we're going to be looking at three things in particular to combat empathy overload and compassion fatigue. Establishing better boundaries to help guard you against constantly being pummeled by the suffering. We're going to talk about ways to regularly process the emotional pain that you are exposed to and taking in. And we're going to work on activities to build your resilience. So I've mentioned a little earlier that this is going to be hands-on today. It's really good if you have some pen and paper handy. It's really good if you close the door and have a little bit of privacy. Make this your sanctuary for the next 45 minutes, okay? So folks, the first thing I want to do is I want to define the terms in the title of this workshop so we're all on the same page. So when I talk about empathy overload, what I'm talking about is that thing that happens when you're constantly taking in the suffering of others without enough resources to properly process it, to properly work through it. Compassion fatigue, on the other hand, is when you've had empathy overload for so long that it depletes your feeling and caring capacity. It's almost like a numbness, almost like an aversion to your advocacy when you get to this place. So yeah, I'm really curious to know, how are you in either of these places? Like, does this describe you? And if so, are you looking at, is it more empathy overload right now? Let's take an informal poll if you feel like sharing. Put one in the chat if it is more a matter of empathy overload. You're like, your just heart is breaking constantly. You're a puddle on the floor. And put two in if you're at this point with your compassion fatigue, where you're feeling that numbness, you're feeling aversion to feeling the pain of others and yourself, like you're not even tuned into your own pain. So yeah, I'm really curious about that. I'm going to open the chat just to get a better sense of what's going on with that. So yeah, okay, quite a variety. Yeah, a lot more too than I was thinking. Yeah, Debbie says a part of me has been deadened. Yeah. more compassion fatigue. Yeah, well, I think we're dealing here with a lot of people that have been at this for quite a long time. And you may feel like you're sort of dealing with it, but maybe not in a really sustainable way. So this is really great to know. Yeah, feeling very anxious, feeling powerless, anger, frustration. So just you know, a lot of sadness. So all that's coming together to create this pain that you're not really knowing what to do with. So, okay, the first key to healing empathy overload and compassion fatigue that we're going to talk about because is better boundaries. Now, if you're taking in painful situations and trying to hold the suffering of others constantly, it really doesn't matter, folks, whether you have excellent processing techniques, whether you have a resilience practice, it's going to eventually wear you down. Okay. So it's really hard to be expansive and healthy and productive when you're in a war zone. Okay. And that's what it is kind of like when you're being pummeled by incredible suffering, you know, articles, videos, photos, going on site, whatever it is. And so the very first thing we have to do is we need to find a way to limit that sort of wanton exposure. So, so I want to talk first of all about how we deal with the exposure of these sort of the more graphic, the more distressing sort of material that comes across with us with animal advocacy. So first of all, I need to acknowledge the situation for animals on this planet is bloody dire. Okay, and I'm not sugarcoating this. The scale of suffering on this planet. I mean, farmed animals alone, we're up to 92 billion animals being killed, slaughtered every year, you know, and after usually a horrible life. And you add fishes in, and we're talking trillions of animals. I mean, our minds can't even contemplate those numbers. And then we also have, you know, to add to the scale of it, the intensity of the abuse and suffering. It's staggering, okay? And I mean, we could see new horrific forms of animal cruelty every minute of the day if we were looking for it. I mean, I have been doing this for 20 years and I still almost daily I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. Oh my God, new levels of depravity. Like, so I'm sure, can you all kind of relate to that? You're always like, I didn't think it could get any lower. Um, and so that basically, though, folks, always being tuned into that is going to basically take away your will to live. And it's certainly going to take away your will to work and to make this world a more compassionate, you know, a more you know, healthy place, which is exactly the world we need for animals to be liberated. And so it's not doing the animals any good for you to be steeped in this sense of absolute devastation. Okay. In fact, it becomes a form of self-punishment that is a little bit more self-serving. So the first thing that I need to say to those of you who are especially sensitive to graphic images, if you're already a dedicated activist and you're vegan, don't expose yourself to every traumatic social post, please. It's just going to rob you of your life force. You know, I'm pretty tough, folks. I have gone like I've edited undercover investigations many times. I've gone through the worst of the worst footage. I've seen a lot, but I still do a gut check every time I, you know, read some information, read an article, read a post. I go, can I handle this right now? And is this necessary? Okay, is this necessary? If there's a lot of people on this, you know, for example, no, you know, I'm not even going to go into examples here because, but there was a sort of a more localized issue and it was really bad. And I went, oh, I should read this. And I'm like, should I read this? It's already being covered. It's done. And I just know that this is an image that is going to take, you know, take resonance in my mind. I know what sort of images do, and I just go gut check. No, this isn't going to serve the animals. Me going into this place. Okay. So find other ways of collecting information. If graphic images are really hard for you, try more written descriptions. Sometimes those don't pack so much of a punch. Or if that's hard for you, find a friend, find a fellow animal advocate that can give you a little, download once a week, and talk about some of the things that have come up in a way that's not so traumatizing, like get some help around this. Now, some of us need to connect to the suffering on a regular basis. Sometimes it's our job. Sometimes it's to keep ourselves informed. But it's also, for some people, it does help to keep you committed. It keeps your commitment glistening. And I understand that. Okay. I don't want to be completely separate from it at all. So that's not what I'm advocating. Again, unless this is really completely, feeling your life force. But what I'm going to ask you to do is this. I'm going to ask you to be much more deliberate. Okay. So this is what I do. I actually collect the hard stuff. Okay. Like if I kind of see something come up, I will grab the link and I will put it in a little sidebar that I have. You put it in a little document, whatever works for you, but put it aside. Don't wade in, put it aside. And then once or twice a week, or whatever you have to do. Again, if you're working on this full time, you might have to do it once a day. But what I'm going to get you to do is find a time, make a time where you can, first of all, ground yourself. Okay, that it's not in the middle of a million other things coming at you. You're not under pressure. You don't have a deadline, but that you have some space to do some pain processing, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. So that you have time to ground before you can watch it, and you have time to process after. And again, I'm going to show you a little bit more about that. That's really what I think is the only way that that our system can truly recover from seeing and reading and gathering this information, is if we can make that space to be deliberate, and when we are in a more grounded place, not a frantic place where you're already going to be. So I just want to, here, this is what it's like when it's like an elastic band. You're like an elastic band, okay? If you're like loose, and something, taps you, it barely registers, right? But if you're tight and something hits you, it's like, and that's what, yes, Jennifer knows that, right? And that is what watching these kind of things are like when you are already so stressed and you don't have any bandwidth. All right. Now, the other type of boundaries, I think it's really important for animal advocates, all advocates, to put in place, are ones that make sure that you're shielded for a bit from a bit of the onslaught, from the activism from the world, at least once in a while, regularly. Okay. So time where you are so separated, so unplugged, that you can't be taken hostage by an Instagram troll, or you can't, somebody who's desperately needing your help can't reach you, or are basically, you don't have to deal with the pressure of groupthink. So so I really do recommend finding these spaces so that we can regulate our systems. And that may look like a daily time every day where we just shut things down, or it may be a weekly time thing in your regular life where you can be in the sanctuary of here and now. Okay, where you can cultivate a sense of that more innate belonging and security. So I'm going to give you some concrete examples of this. And these are things that I do. So first of all, I do something called first hour, last hour. And let's talk about the first hour of the day. A study found that 61% of people who have smartphones look at them within the first 5 minutes of waking up. Now, folks, that is the equivalent of staggering out of your bed, out the front door, into traffic. Okay, outside traffic. It is dumb. You're vulnerable. You're dazed. Things will hit you in a much deeper and weirder way. It's just not a smart thing to do. In order for us to be the most effective advocates for animals we can be, we need to be in control of how we show up to the day, not the outside world. Okay, not everybody that's on Facebook, but how we decide we're going to be. And the only way to do that is to really not have all of these voices coming at you first thing in the morning when you are vulnerable and impressionable. Okay. So I really, for the first hour of the day, I do not go online. I certainly don't go on social media. And I have my ringer off. I do a little bit of a practice in the morning to center myself, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you can do it. You can read for a bit. You can exercise. You can stretch. You can cuddle with your cat, your dog. But don't go and start scrolling right away. It is the way to absolutely instantly dysregulate your emotional life. All right. And then the last hour of the day, I try to do the same thing. Sleep experts recommend getting all your screens turned off at least for the last hour before bedtime. So instead of scrolling Instagram before jumping into bed, or being in bed, even worse, have a bath, read something soothing, do some stretching, put some soft music on. This signals to the body that it's safe to start letting go and relaxing. And that is the space, this sort of more relaxed, safe space is where the capacity for emotional regulation lies. And remember, we talk a lot about, self-care and how indulgent it is. It's gotten a bad, sort of bad rap. But the thing is, if we are absolutely out of our heads, we are not, believe me, I have worked with so many advocates, so many activist change makers, and I have seen their effectiveness and their endurance increase, oh my God, so much by doing the work of taking care of themselves and their emotional and mental health and their body, their physical health too, helps a lot. So one other, one I want to really share with you is something I call Sanctuary Sunday or Sacred Sunday. Okay, but let's call it Sanctuary Sunday for now. And so on Sundays, I don't get to do it every Sunday, but this is always my aim. On Sundays, I get off of all social media. I'm unplugged. I also don't make any plans. I don't, it's my true day off. Okay. It's a day where I do not have any schedule to adhere to, where I sort of feel into what I need at whatever time. Hey, if somebody, wants to go out last minute and I feel like it, I do that gut check and I feel like it, I do it. But you just need a day where you are not owned by your issue, like your advocacy, other people, because that is the way you can refuel. Okay. It doesn't have to be a Sunday. It doesn't have to be a whole day. It could be one afternoon a week or one evening a week, but surely we should have one full day off, folks. Now, for those of you who need to spend a lot of time on social media, like it's your form of advocacy or it's your work or whatever it is, again, you need to practice some of these techniques of, limiting graphic. You also might want to set timers to make sure that you don't stay on for too long. Make sure you stay on task. Those would be some of my recommendations. Okay, now we need to get into some of the juicy stuff here. I keep talking about processing pain. So we're going to go to our second cornerstone of healing for compassion fatigue and empathy overload. And that is tactical techniques to regularly process emotional pain. Okay, you're going to be exposed to painful stuff. The world is hard. It's painful. The road we're walking is just full of tragedy. But we need to figure out a way to move through pain in a constructive, in a healing way. Okay. So the first one I'm going to say is probably pretty obvious, but I really want to hit it home to people. It's about talking it out. And talking it out with somebody or somebodies who can relate to you, who you trust, won't minimize what you're going through, who maybe won't try to do some problem solving, somebody that can just just be a container for you to just go, holy fuck, I am so devastated by this. Okay, we all need that, folks. I need that. You need that. Like, we all need that. And that is also why community is so important. Okay, it's great to have those really intimate confidants, but it's also really great to be in community like this. I mean, I don't know how it feels for you, but to see everybody, to see this chat, and to see that all these people that look wonderful and capable and, come from all these amazing backgrounds and have done all this great work, they're also having some of the similar challenges. That, like, tell me in the chat, tell me how that feels to see that. Like, that actually, yeah, it's a sanity saver, right? It really is. It makes you remember that you're not in this pain alone, and that you're also not solely responsible for all of it. Okay, it's not all yours to hold. That really helps. So, that's one of the biggest reasons I founded Animal Justice Academy, was to have this sense of community. So I hope, if you don't already, that you join us. We try to do a couple of these live sessions every 2 weeks. There's also meditation groups out there specifically for animal advocates. A group out of the States called Mobius, friends of mine, they do meditation retreats twice a year online. We talk about those in Animal Justice Academy. There's a few folks here that are part of that. They also do a monthly meditation group with a wonderful Buddhist monk named Tashi Nima. There's the Dystopia group led by Claire Mann, that is all about dealing with the pain of being an animal advocate. And I also, as well as in my role as coach for changemakers, I do sessions. I had been taking a break, but they're starting up again. I do something called the Changemaker sessions every couple of weeks. And it's on Wednesday evenings at 7. And I do a workshop very much like this. Now, it is for all folks from all social justice sort of arenas, but I obviously get a lot of animal advocates there because you're my peeps. So please Ina put a link in there if you want to check that out and get on the list to get notifications for that. That's in the chat right now. So I want to take a quick moment right now for you to grab that pen and paper. And I would like for you to just think about it and write down if there's any particular people, and it may just be one person that you can think of, but that first of all, peoples that you can make a more formalized arrangement to just be able to touch base once a week. And maybe you say, this was the hardest thing I saw this week, and this was the most inspiring thing I saw this week. It could be something like that. And you can also write down if there are any communities local advocate communities that you would, that you have, just to remind yourself of who's out there to talk to. Okay, so I'm just going to give you 1 minute to do that. Yeah, Liviana asked if we can get names for these various groups. I'll include that in the follow-up email with the replay. Thank you, Liviana. And maybe there are some groups out there that you thought about checking out, but you haven't. So yeah, put those down. Oh, excellent. And yes, if anybody has resources that they would like to share, please. I also know we the people, they also have some great advocacy support events as well. So please feel free to drop those into the chat. And because I'm doing this workshop and I'm concentrated on you, I'm not able to keep up with the chat, but I will look at everything afterwards in the transcript. Okay, folks. So I just wanted you to sort of get your brain going around that, around, who's there, and can I make a little bit more of a formal arrangement, or can I make a commitment to being a part of these groups on a regular basis? I'm sorry, my earphones keep on dropping out. Okay, now this is where the rubber really hits the road. Working with pain, folks. So the reason witnessing other suffering is so hard on us is because we in this society, we're not taught any practices in growing up at any point around being with and moving through pain. Okay, pain is it's a natural part of this life, this existence, this world. I mean, the pain that we're observing in the through animal advocacy is way too much. But it is something that we should, that we should be able to have tools to deal with. So when we're faced with the pain of this work, of the pain that we observe, the pain of conflict, the pain of whatever, our knee-jerk reaction is to run from it. And I'm not talking necessarily physically, like shut the computer, everything. We may actually witness it. We may sort of expose ourselves to it, but we don't actually give it the space to feel into it and to move through it. Okay. Instead, what we do is we contract or we distract ourselves with food or scrolling or booze or anger or outrage or whatever it is. And so witnessing pain won't exact such a toll if you give yourself space to be with those painful sensations. Now, I know this may be a bit of a new concept for a lot of folks. So bear with me here. So, okay, so it's really about 3 steps. Allow the painful sensations. Okay, so when you witness something or experience something that is painful, to let it be for a minute. Okay, to be able to then second fully touch into it. So whether that's through a breath, whether that's through some movement, and I'm going to give you examples of all of these in a second, and then release that pain in a visceral way. Okay, in a way that basically tells your brain it's time to let go. Now, this, folks, can be a 3-week process or it can be a 30-second process. Okay, but the mechanics are the same. So I want to practice this with the breath. Now, the breath, and then the longer sort of version of breathing is meditation. It's the simplest and the fastest tool for processing pain. Okay, breath. It's right there. It's always there. We're doing it anyway. So I want to just kind of take you through what these 3 sort of steps feel like. Okay, so I'd like for you to just either close your eyes or just sort of let your gaze sort of lower. And I just want you to take in first just a big clearing breath. And now I'm sure just through talking, you've sort of, some of the more painful things that you might be dealing with have been coming close to the surface. And that's okay. So the first step is to allow, to just really kind of go, oh, what is pain? And I want you not just to what is the pain? I want you to notice where in your body it is. Okay, is it in your chest? Are you feeling sensation, that tightening sensation or aching or swirling sensation in your chest? Is it in your throat? Maybe it's in your upper stomach. Maybe it's in your forehead. Maybe it's in your belly. Just notice where it is. Okay, so that's step 1. It's just like recognizing and allowing it. And then step 2, and this is where it feels very counterintuitive to what we're taught. I want you to breathe right into that place, right into that tight, icky sensation. I want you to breathe into it. Now, at first, it may feel like, oh my God, I can't handle this, but just keep breathing into it. And if you can't, it's okay, stop. But just keep trying to breathe into it, trying to breathe into the sensation of it. Just like almost like giving it space, giving it like honoring it. And now I want you to sort of go to the 3rd step of letting it go. And so now when you breathe into it on the out breath, I want you to concentrate on softening, letting go. Breathing into that place, and on the exhale, just softening. Just seeing if you can let the muscles in this place relax. If you can let it loosen. If you can let it go. Just for a moment. Okay. Let's take another breath in. And coming back to eyes open. So that was just a little mini pain processing, okay? But it just gives you the idea of kind of this revolutionary process. Like, we're taught to just get the hell away from our pain, however we can do it. And actually, and it may have happened for some of you, but it may take a lot longer. The interesting thing that happens is when we are able to breathe in, identify where the pain is, and we're able to breathe into it, it actually starts to loosen a little bit. Okay, it actually starts to soften a bit. And again, if this is the first time you're trying something like that, that may not have happened. It just may have been horrible. But trust me, if you keep going with it, this will, you will eventually find some space and some looseness. Blanche says, wow, it helps for me. Okay, yeah, amazing. Thank you, Blanche. So again, this is just like if you're in the middle of something, you're in a meeting or you're at, you're at a protest or something, and something comes up, just using your breath to do that. Where is it in my body? Breathing into it. It's an act of love. Okay, it's an act of love of just saying, I see and feel you pain, and now can we just soften it? Okay, can we try to relax around it? That's our work, right? With pain in this life, folks, is not to get rid of it. It's to learn how can we relax with it a bit more. Okay. Now I want to address something that is probably coming up for a lot of you. But if I don't have my pain, what's going to drive me? Okay. Anybody? Does that come up for anybody? If I don't have my pain, what I've got nothing. The fire is gone. The motivation is gone. Folks, the thing is, pain, anger, fear, it's a good spark to get you motivated. It's the starting place, but it is not sustainable. Okay. It is not going to allow you to do effective work for a long time. Okay. That can be the thing that wakes us up, jolts us into action, but it cannot be the thing that fuels our advocacy, because we will burn out. And if we don't burn out, we will probably end up doing more damage to our movements and health. Okay. I've seen it happen time and time again. Oh, Tenebrae said, yeah, I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath. Yeah. So, okay. Let's get into, so I'll just say this, you could actually formalize, this can be an on the spot thing, or you can actually formalize this. You could actually have on your phone a little alert that comes up, 3 times a day that says, process, breathe the pain, or just breathe. And you can just stop or whatever you're doing, and you can do that process of where is it in my body, breathing into it, feeling into it, and then relaxing with it on the out breath, softening. Okay. It's just a really simple way to do that. And honestly, that's the type of meditation, folks. Slap 20 minutes on that and you're meditating. Okay. That's really a meditation practice, or slap 5 minutes on it and you're meditating. So I want to go in. So I'm starting sort of subtle, and I want to go a little bit more dramatic. Okay. I'm a big believer of the breath is our sort of visceral way of working with our pain. Sometimes we need something more visceral, more dramatic. Okay. And so I want you to think about dogs as our teacher for this. So imagine, recall, I'm sure we've all seen this, but when a dog has been scared by something or has had an altercation or whatever, and the threat passes, what do? They shake themselves out. They are so much smarter and more intuitive than us in this way. They know that what happened was a physiological reaction. It was a clutching, a contracting, a tightening. And the antidote to that is to shake it out. Okay, so we're going to try a little version of this. We're all going to close our eyes or cast our gaze down so that nobody's self-conscious about this. And I want you to once again take in a deep breath. And now I want you once again to find that place in your body where it's hurting, in whatever way it's hurting, for whatever reason it's hurting. Just sort of get used to it, just really allowing it. And now I want you to take a really big, deep breath into that place. And then on the exhale, I want you to shake it out with the exhale. I want you to shake out the shoulders. I want you to shake out the hips. I want you to shake out the face, the expression on the face. I want you to shake out everything. Just the more you shake, the better it is. And you shake out the lips even. And then letting everything go slack keeping your eyes closed. And then I just want you to feel maybe that draining out of some of that energy, some of that freneticness. Just a little bit of that sort of releasing from the body. Okay. Coming back to eyes open if you're ready. And how did that feel? Could you feel any relief? Now, this is I'd love to hear in the chat if anybody felt released from that. And that was really like what, 15 seconds, folks. Yeah, Jade said awesome. And I am literally shaking it out several times a day. You wonder, like people ask me how are you so positive and and all that sort of thing. I am shaking through my pain so much. I'm doing these tools all the time. And so yeah. uh oh, Corey didn't realize it. Grace Bralson, you can do it on your own now. Turn off your camera and do a shakeout. Caitlin said that made me realize how little I move my body regularly. Absolutely. Delola said, huge release. Never realized how my dogs were shaking it out like this. Yes. And Nisha and Jeremy said, yes, the physical and emotional and mental are entangled. Yes, thank you for recognizing that. Okay, so now again, these are really fast things, and these aren't like one-offs. These are like you're doing these kind of regularly, like you're getting in the habit of when you feel that build up, you're shaking it out. Now, sometimes we need to do this even bigger. And so, ways that this is sort of built in are, there are practices like yoga and Tai Chi and dancing. Those are all kind of designed to move into that feeling and through it. Another one, folks, if you've been just carrying something really weighty, I'm going to recommend something that I call dancing it out. It's really not, doesn't have to be dancing, but you find a song that really emulates the feeling of what you have. So if it's rage, you're going to get some punk music or some metal. If it's just, you're feeling just desperate, you're going to find something that is just much more lyrical, melodic, that brings out that sense of, or sort of distraught. And you are going to play that song and you are just going to let it you're going to move in it. You're just going to feel that song and you're going to let all of your body respond to it however you want to do it. Or you can also do a major shakeout with music. Okay. You can put music on and you can just do a shakeout for like 4 minutes. So music can be incredible for being able to, music really speaks to us, goes under the intellect and straight to that emotional place that we're sort of speaking of right now. And so it can be really magical in doing this. Another thing, and we don't have time to do this, but I'm going to describe this exercise. I call it the mind dump. And it's really just stream of consciousness writing for 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. It's taking the pen and just writing, not stopping, not thinking, what am I going to write? What should I write? It's like whatever is in your mind and your body, you are getting onto the piece of paper. Okay. You are writing, I can't believe they said that. And I am so fucking upset. And this is, blah, blah, blah. Or it can be, wonder what I'm going to have for lunch today. Or I loved what they said, blah, blah, blah. So it's just really to be able to take, again, visceral, right? We're talking visceral. It's about being able to take that visceral aspect of writing to be able to move and feel some of what's happening and what you're holding and put it onto the piece of paper. So, what it does is it creates a space for you to be real with yourself about how you're feeling. Sometimes it's a really good check-in, like, oh, I didn't even realize this was going on in me. And it's also a chance to just let go of some of it. Okay. It's like dump it out of the brain and see it in black and white. And maybe we can let go of some of the energy. I do this every day. So my morning practice is I read something that sort of gives me a little bit of sustenance. I meditate. I do a mind dump, which may sort of go into journaling, and then I do sort of some appreciations. That's my basic one. So like I would recommend that you give this a try. Again, I'm sorry we don't have time to try it together, but mind dump is can be radical. If anybody else does mind dump here, has learned it from me, please, give a little testimonial to it so that people, somebody hears from somebody other than just me. And then last one in this visceral aspect, this visceral piece, a good cry, a good scream. Being able to give yourself the space to feel the weight of it, to feel the sorrow of it, is really important. And I want to tell you about, some of you might know Jenny Donovan, amazing activist in Quebec. And Jenny is working on this project called the Coronation Project. And basically, takes it tells stories of animals who have been brutalized, overlooked, or discarded in some sort of, a way, like usually some sort of story that's been public. And she, in illustrations and story, returns their dignity and agency to them by showing them back in their full glory with a crown on their head. And there's something about returning a being that has this beauty, wildness, joy, life inside of them, to come back to who they really are. Okay. And so, what I would really like to do, folks, is I would like to do a little visualization with you right now that actually is going to take a little bit of all of what we've just talked about and bring it together. Okay. And so for this, I would just, really, again, make sure that you're not going to be interrupted. You might want to close the door. You could lie down for this if you want to. It doesn't matter, whatever feels best to you, okay? And it's going to be pretty short. And I'm just going to take you through this just to, again, try out a few of these different techniques, and be able to give you a little taste of this. All right. So I'm going to share some music for this. 2 seconds, folks. If you can just get yourself comfy and when you're ready, I would like for you to close your eyes, or again, once again, cast your gaze downward. Okay. And we're going to start off by, actually, before we sort of get going too much, I want you to bring to your mind a situation in your animal advocacy. It might be, that's particularly weighing on you. That's particularly weighed on you this week or for years, that you've seen maybe video of or photos or read about, or maybe you've witnessed it firsthand. And it's just something that's been really hard, that's just been really sort of holding you hostage, tearing your heart out in some ways. Okay, so once you have that, I'm going to ask you to take in a nice deep breath. And again, closing your eyes if they're not already closed. And I know this may feel counterintuitive, but I'm going to have you take in, first of all, a deep breath. And I'm going to have you find yourself in that place with that animal that you have brought to mind, where they are, where they're suffering. I want you to actually find yourself in that place. And I want you to make it as real as possible. Okay, and I know this is hard, folks. And if this is too much, please feel free to just listen. You don't need to do it. And so you may find yourself among rows of battery cages, chickens. You may find yourself in a cage with an animal at a zoo. You may find yourself in a lab. But I want you to start by looking down at your feet and seeing what's beneath your feet. I want you to look around and just see the surroundings, taking in the smell, taking in the sound. And I want you now to really focus on this animal or animals. Could be more than one. Okay, I really want you to look at that being and really connecting to what they're feeling, what you can guess they're feeling. You can never fully know, of course. Connecting to maybe their fear, maybe their agony, their confusion, their boredom, their loneliness. And I'm going to ask you now to find where in your body you're feeling that for them, and to start breathing into that place in your body. And now I want you to notice that you're not the only one in here, in this place, holding this being, witnessing this being in their pain. I want you to notice that you are now surrounded by other strong, solid, huge-hearted humans forming a circle with you around that animal, that being. And these people may be faces that are familiar to you, that are already supportive presences in your real life. Or they might be ones that you know more from afar. If you want me in your circle, I'm happy to be there with you. Anybody from the movement or beyond. Could even be a wise, powerful being, a spiritual figure could be included in that. Anybody past, in this world or gone from this world, can be part of that circle. There may be animal beings with you in that circle. Strong, full, present animal beings. So whoever is in that circle, I want you to feel yourself and the animal being surrounded and circled by this warm, safe energy, like almost everything else in this environment falls away. And now I want you to go back to breathing into the animal's pain with all of this strength backing you up. So being able to breathe into that sensation in your body, and then with the support of everyone, being able to let go, being able to relax, exhale it, create some space around it. And as you do that, the same thing happens with the animal. They start to relent. They start to have some space and some grace. And if you find yourself losing some strength with this, a few of the people in your circle, they turn to you and they focus on you, and they hold you and support you, and you can feel their warmth, you can feel their care almost cradling you. Feel that, receive that. This isn't just about giving, this is also about receiving. And now all of you together and the animal are breathing through this pain, are taking this pain, and with the exhale are starting to transform it. Feeling the suffering of this animal being lifted. Feeling them start to move into this place of light, of freedom, however, in whatever form you imagine it. Maybe from their weakened state, you see them come back to their full magnificence and strength and agency. Maybe you see and feel them absorbed by this warm light. Maybe they get to the place where they're so strong they can break out of here themselves. Maybe they just let go and dissolve into their home of everything. But just feel that complete and total release. Maybe you can take them and bring them, pull them into your heart, where they can reside in their glorious, wild, safe, and magnificent space. All right. I'm going to ask you now to take in a big deep breath as you raise the arms above the head. Big breath in. And letting go with a big exhale, letting the arms come down. And when you're ready, just shaking it out, just like we talked about, shaking it out, and coming back to eyes open. Oh, my dears. How y'all doing? Oh, I'm seeing some tears. I'm seeing it's not an easy exercise, folks. I know. But I just wanted to give you a sense of how you start dealing with the pain, okay? It's not gonna, if you've been holding pain for years or months or even just weeks, it's not gonna release all in one go, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a template, okay? This is sort of something that I use, and I don't necessarily go into a 10-minute meditation around it. I'd like to hear some feedback. What was the experience for you? I'm seeing, yeah, it was tough. It was sad. It had a good cry. It was helpful. Yeah. Well, Aaron, you've seen more than all of us put together, so I'm so glad to hear that. Um, and so yeah, I use this on the spot. Like, there was an animal that has been stuck in my head this week, just as I was sort of preparing for this. This kept coming up from years and years ago. And I just did this every time they come up in my mind. I envision myself just, encircling them with love and gentleness, and then I just see them spring away, and just full health and full vitality. And yes, I know that this isn't necessarily the truth of what happens, and probably far from it. But the thing is, the work that we're doing now in our animal advocacy is to make sure that those future animals are held with love and respect and are given agency. Okay? So that is what we are doing. So we are honoring the pain of these animals that are going through this agony, and we are transforming it into the love and into the strength for us to go forward and to keep going to make a better world for all of these animals. Yeah, so I'm just going to go and take a look here and see. Yeah, so very hard, especially when the animals are still suffering. So I hope that helps, Jade, what I just said. Um, yeah, so thank you for some of this feedback, folks. And like I said, it may be very simple. Like it may be just about holding the animal for a moment while they're in their pain, or just stroking their brow. Or it may be like opening the cages and letting them all go. And again, this isn't necessarily what would work in real life, but it's about the feeling. It's about reminding yourself that in the midst of all of this desperation, all of this sorrow, all of this horrific stuff, that we still have love and we still have a spark of life to change this. Okay, that is what's important. And that is what we need to keep on connecting to. Okay. Thank you, folks. I know we've gone over time, and I really appreciate you staying here with me. Um, I sort of already covered the third cornerstone, which is being able to have a regular practice to soothe and strengthen. And that's really about figuring out what it is that feeds you and habituating that in a more formal way. Okay. So the one thing that I would love for you to think about is what's come up in your head about, like, what are some of the things that make you feel soothed, whether it's walking in nature, whether it is being in part of a support group, whether it's painting, whether it's all night dance parties, whether it's yoga, whether it's a meditation. Um, and I just want you to ask yourself, have I done any of this lately? Have I given myself some time to do this lately? I know the guilt can be so much, folks. It's like, what are you doing taking time for yourself when there are billions of animals dying? But I hope you've been listening today, and I hope you recognize that the stronger and more healed you are, the stronger and more healed our movement will be, and the world will be. Okay, so it is a piece of this that is so important. Okay, you know me, I'm always pushing you to do more, get more active, but I also need to make sure that you are taking the time to take care of this precious vessel. If you don't, we will lose you, and we cannot afford to lose you, folks. You got me? Can you nod your heads if you got me? Okay, thank you. You got me. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a few resources. If meditation is something you're interested in, I have a bunch of free meditations on my website. I think Ina put it in there already, but Ina, if you can maybe drop it again, thank you. You're so fast. I love you. And just there's anything from 5 to 15 minutes. A nice way to start really active meditations. So if you had trouble meditating before, these might be a really good place to start. I'm also going to challenge you to choose one activity to put in your calendar for this next week that is reassuring for you. I would also like to challenge you, and I'd like you to put this in the chat. What is one thing you're going to try as a pain process this next week? You're going to do a shake it out. Are you going to do some meditation? Are you going to do a dance? Are you going to do the dance thing? Are you going to do a mind dump? What are you going to do? Are you going to try to do a sanctuary Saturday or Sunday? So yeah, I'd love to hear in the chat what you're up for. And the other thing, I saw a lot of, in the beginning when we were talking about compassion fatigue and empathy overload, a lot of people were talking about the anger and the frustration. So I want to invite you to something coming up very soon. The next Changemaker session I'm doing is actually going to be called What to Do with the Anger. Okay, so there's so much to rage against right now, folks. If we're not careful, that anger can work against us and, of course, the animals, and burn us out. So I'm going to cover techniques to transform anger into empowered action, how to glean wisdom we need to from anger, and how to turn it into something we can use. So make sure to sign up for that. I think Ina will put that in the chat. That's my Changemaker session. So if you sign up for the Changemaker sessions, you will get a notice of that. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you is I also have a bunch of workshops around self-care, around empowerment, around strategy on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out. And also remember, week 6 of the Animal Justice Academy has tons of this stuff. All right, folks, I'm going to let you go. Oh, one more thing. In 2 weeks, we're coming back here for our lunchtime live, and we are going to be talking about the Northern dogs, res dog situation, and what's happening, and some movement around that, and a big event that's going to be happening that you can be a part of. It's such a tragic issue, but there's some really exciting things happening around it. Okay, folks, I'm going to say goodbye to you, and I'd like to take the audio on. Ina, can you put our audio on so that I can say hello and goodbye to everybody? Folks, I am going to follow up with some resources in this replay email, and I will also be following up with the next AJA Lunchtime Live. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you. And I will also read this whole chat later, okay? Mwah. Have a great day, everybody. Please do this work. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
See you all.
Love you.
Everybody.
Thank you, Nina. Bye, everyone.
Bye.